So good evening to everyone and welcome back to the celebrations. I think we are sort of beginning to sort of settle in a groove now. I hope everybody remembers that it's the first Monday of the month when we are supposed to gather here for the next round of celebrations. As Professor Vishal has already mentioned that we hope to do 25 such events. This is the fifth one. And then after that, we hopefully will have a conference where everybody can come together in person, I hope, and then have the final sort of conclusive event on that. And I think the more than equally as important as it is to attend the events physically, it's also important that you document them and then use it for for posterity. And thankfully, Professor Vishal and the faculty has come up with a plan that we will be creating books, okay, by taking excerpts from the discussions that have happened, because it's quite a privilege to have over 100 people from industry, practice, and policy to come together and talk about various aspects of design, and that's invaluable as a document for us to learn from as we go along. In addition to that, the event is recorded and hopefully digitally sort of edited so that it's all clear and nice and easily audible and so on, and so that it is also available as part of the YouTube videos, right? And I'm really grateful for the students to help us and some of the staff members to help us doing that. So with that, I would like to quickly just run through an overview of the CPDM, because we used to say not very long ago that IISc's India's best kept secret is IISc. Nobody knew about it. When I joined my masters, I chanced upon it just by luck, and there we are. Thankfully, with the national ranking framework and so on, IISc is somewhat known now. But I think CPDM is still one of the best kept secrets of IISc, and we need to make that get changed. Okay, so that's the intent. The MDes program was established in 1997, so we will be soon inducting the 26th batch. As we come, I think the students are already paid their fees, so hopefully we'll see them at the end of this month. CPDM was established. Can I move this key here? Okay, anyway, I'll tell. CPDM was established in the following year, much like Delft, which started in the workshop of mechanical engineering department. It also started in the central workshop, which was run by the mechanical department. And I hope that as it happened in the case of Delft, that the design engineering department became so big that it also engulfed mechanical engineering department as a sub element within that. One day we'll do that. We'll do that in CPDM as well, but don't tell others right now. And then how do I go to the next slide? Okay, I think it has gone. We hope to have extension to the building very soon, and half of that is done, and some of the labs are sitting there. I think quickly, we are doing all right, but I think we can do better. I think in research we are pretty good. I think in design, I think we have scope for further expansion, which we are trying with new faculty and so on. What have we been doing? We had over 400 MDes students, 60 plus PhD students right now in MSc and PhD research, and all kinds of awards, patents, and also the MTech program that we are about to take the fourth batch inducted as we come next end of the month. Our students are doing well in terms of getting international awards like Red Dot and so on, James Dyson Award and so on. And some of them are going out to do startups. Some of the startups are doing well. Cycle Innovation, for instance, is an agri-tech startup which has been receiving lots of awards and also many contracts, which is very important for a company to survive. Grass Bionics championing prosthetic arm with just a single actuator. They did more recently, awards in various categories of manufacturing. Platinum Award for the most innovative low-cost innovation in manufacturing. Award of Excellence by EEE in winning a number of other competitions and conferences. And it's good to see students. Then we started the first PhD program in design in the country way back in 1995 in CDT, and then CPDM took up the mantle and continued with it. And we have a large number of now faculty members, students who are now faculty members in all kinds of places, both in India and beyond India. Um, we, of course, want to champion excellence in design and manufacturing to support functional, aesthetic, usable, and sustainable products and solutions by developing professionals, leaders, innovating products, and developing knowledge through research. We have roughly, I would say, an average size department in IISc, about 11 core faculty, plus about 100 something students. So that's the average. We have a number of firsts: Design Observatory in India, Smart Factory in India, PLM conference, and so on. We are also one of the first 5 design innovation centers around in India. And lots of our students go to startups. I think this is an important one. I think more can go, but there is a healthy growth there. Just 4 quick major initiatives. One is National Design Innovation Network, which is led by IISc under the leadership of Professor Gurumurthy, where we are trying to get all the stakeholders in design come together on a digital portal. Then the Technology Business Incubator that focuses on medtech and geriatric healthcare. The Smart Factory, which is a national initiative, and the Design Innovation Center that I spoke about earlier. 2 conference series. I've just been told that we had record number of submissions this year. Last year, I think in ICORD, which is kind of the de facto design research conference in the country, goes for its 9th international edition in 2023 January, which is run pretty much by our students. Last year, we published 240 papers. This year, 390 papers are already submitted, and we hope to get at least 10-15 more in today. I think is the last date, so yeah, we should be getting. I think it will cross 400. We'll see how many survive, but it will still be more than 240. There is another conference on manufacturing. We call it iForum. This is the International Industry 4.0 and Advanced Manufacturing Conference, which has finished its 2nd term. And there is a Springer book just about ready to be published this month. Now, what has happened in the last month? Well, we had a certification of appreciation that Mukil Saravanan and Abrora Chaudhary got for, I think, being 9th in an international robotics competition. Translead, one of the medtech startups under the TBI that I showed you earlier, was picked up as the sort of showcase TBI under the Bairak startup event that Sri Narendra Modi ji had inaugurated. And most recently, I think is yesterday, that the Wireless World Research Forum had given Best Paper Award to one of the papers from the department by Abhishek Mukhopadhyay and Dr. Pradipta Biswas. So congratulations to all of them. And so over to Vishal to run today's agenda. Thank you very much. I think I'm really happy that we are blessed with such wonderful faculty members, students, and colleagues. And I think we can do better, as we go along in the future. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Professor Chakravarti. So the agenda is in front of you. I think it was already shared as well. So given that we started a bit late, I'll quickly run through it. We'll start with 4 10-minute talks by each of our guests, and then we'll go into the panel discussion. I hope we'll have questions and answers, questions from audience. We'll take it for about, we'll take 4 or 5 questions, altogether 10 minutes. And then we'll listen to our alumni, the 5th batch who have joined us online. And would like to hear from them what they've been doing, where they are, and how CPDM has been part of their life one way or the other. And then we'll close with a thanking note, ending up with a high tea for all those who are here. I'm sure those who are online can join, have a tea at home, and then feel part of it here from home as well. So what I'll do is okay, so just a moment. I'll go back again with the last slide. I missed. I'll just introduce the panel. Sorry, I have multiple slides open, so my skills are being challenged here. Cognitive load, yes. Yeah. So there's the panel. We will not necessarily follow the same order in the presentations. So we'll start maybe with people who are joined online because it's easier to go that way, and then we'll come here. So I think I'll ask Professor Rao if you could give the first talk. So before he does that, I'll give a brief bio. It was very difficult, so I didn't ask him for a bio. I just got it from online, given there are so many places his bio is. And it was a difficult task shortening it, so I'll try to make it as short as possible. So Professor Rao is a professor in the departments of design and mechanical engineering at IIT Delhi. Until recently, he served as the head of the department of design. He's currently the dean for alumni affairs. He's a co-founder of IISc Lab at IIT. And he's also been responsible for initiating and driving multiple programs in design, innovation, and entrepreneurship at IIT Delhi. He has been a guest lecturer to NIST USA, a visiting scientist at MIT, and a visiting faculty at Stanford University. His current teaching and research interests include product design and manufacturing, computer design and manufacturing, design for product life cycle, design of medical and assistive devices. He has authored more than 120 research papers in journals and conferences. He serves on editorial boards of ASME Journal of Computing and Information Science in Engineering, ASTM Journal of Smart and Sustainable Manufacturing Systems, and the list goes on, so I'll stop there. He has supervised 15 PhD students and 50 completed PhD thesis and 50 master's thesis. Many of his design registrations and dozens of patents have been commercialized. He serves in multiple roles as chairman, part-time director, scientific advisor to many new startups and companies. He's a fellow of ASME, a recipient of Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation National Fellowship, a recipient of IIT Delhi's KL Chopra Faculty Research Award in Applied Research, has been conferred with 2005 Vasvik Industrial Research Award, and has received twice National Award by DST to scientists working in the area of accessibility for the disabled. And of course, has won many best paper awards in international conferences. Right, so with that, I'll ask Professor Rao to kindly share his slides. I'll unshare my part here.
Thank you for that very liberal introduction.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So firstly, congratulations to CPDM on completing 25 years of MDes program. And I had a wonderful opportunity to interact with CPDM all these 25 years. And so I have been a witness to MDes program, which has now grown 25 years old. And also thanks for this opportunity. And I think we probably need more such events in design. Thanks for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I think all of us were asked to share some of our work quickly for about 10 minutes. These days, I primarily work in design of medical and assistive devices. I thought for this session, I'll share some of my own experiences of designing assistive technologies. So we are also a group. Yeah, am I audible clearly? I hope.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So assistive technology work started almost 15 years back when a lab was founded at IIT Delhi, which is called IISc. And it was co-founded by my faculty colleague, Professor M. Balakrishnan from computer science. And so this lab primarily looks at design of assistive technologies for visually challenged, particularly in two areas, mobility and education. And we have been fairly successful in taking about 6 products to market with more than 1.3 lakh users in 25 countries now. And also there are another half a dozen products which are in translation and probably hit market anytime in near future. Okay, and also it's a very challenging area. Unlike the medical technologies where there are thousands of entrepreneurs, there are now close to about 80, 90 medical technology incubators, and a lot happening, particularly from various parts of the country. Assistive technology is still a big challenge for the country. I think that's what actually pulled us into this area. In fact, we got into assistive technology when some of the users came to IIT Delhi and provoked and said, being a technology institution, why are you not doing anything in assistive technology? That's how we got into this area. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just go through, since there are many issues which can be discussed, but I thought I'll just concentrate on 4 or 5 probably issues or aspects of designing assistive technologies in this particular session. So generally, when it comes to assistive technologies, people think of white cane wheelchair or a hearing aid, which are very common. And but the sad part is that even these technologies, if you look at the worldwide, only 1 out of the 10 who need is able to access it. So that means still there is a much bigger Indian and global challenge. How do you basically reach out to the 90% of the people with disabilities who actually have not had an opportunity to use the assistive technology? But if you really look at the WHO perspective, WHO looks at assistive technologies from more generic perspective. So all these are assistive technologies, and they're helping elderly and people with various disabilities, empowering them in various ways. And one good thing about broadening the definition of assistive technology is that in a way it brings universal design into it. If you look at all these products, they are not necessarily designed for specific disability, but I think they also serve in multiple ways with people with various disabilities and have been wonderful products. If you go by this, then according to WHO, every 3rd person would need an assistive technology. Yeah. But coming to the challenges, particularly in design of assistive technology, as we started and as we see many of the startups which are now coming up in assistive technology, new products are being designed. There are, so usually one starts with like any other innovation or a product design endeavor or a startup where you start with an idea, go to proof of concept, functional prototype, MVP, and try to make it market ready. Now, this traditional route, which we see, usually doesn't work in assistive technology because this is definitely a mandatory process. But what is missing here is a head and tail. When I say head, how did probably the need was identified is a much bigger challenge in assistive technology than anything else. Just to give an example, one of the groups was actually trying to build a stair climbing wheelchair, and when they actually took their particular product to people, people asked, by building this particular product, you are actually trying to say that most of the buildings are not designed as per the law. That means there is this, in other words, you need a stair climbing wheelchair when only a particular a building or a particular this thing is not accessible, but as per law, it has to be. So that's not a good product, and that's not what we want. The second group of people who said that, why do you want to make me sit in a wheelchair for the rest of my life? Being a technology institute, why don't you give me an exoskeleton and I can probably walk and climb like you? So the idea is how do you actually look at the need in assistive technology space is a very sensitive, complicated, and requires much more research than any other product development process. So that has been a realization all these years. The second thing is, how do you deliver the products once it is in the market? If you really look at assistive technologies, there is a huge need. When I said 9 out of the 10 people do not have assistive technology, but there is no demand. In other words, these are not market-driven products. And it's very, very difficult to first make it market ready and look for a delivery. And I think a design has to embrace a much more holistic approach, that how will the products reach people, and your entire design changes when you bring this particular aspect. So unless you have this head and tail in a very strong manner, there have been number of attempts to design assistive technologies which have failed, and there have been very few successes. And it also has a multiple stakeholders, and you can't ignore any of the stakeholders. And we have burnt our fingers by doing that in our early stages of product development. Another very interesting aspect of design of assistive technology is that there are multiple dimensions. Like there is a technical dimension, it's assistive technology. There's a big medical dimension, even bigger as social dimensions. For example, the social stigma is an extremely important. Just if I take a hearing aid for, let's say, an elderly or a hard of hearing, you can design a product, but how can you make them actually use one is much bigger challenge than designing the hearing aid itself. And of course, there are, as I said, it's not a market driven, so it needs a very innovative business models to reach out to people, etc. Just to give an example of even the technical dimension, this is one of the products which we just launched. This is a complete laptop for visually challenged. It's called as a dot book. Instead of a visual display, what you see here is a 40 character braille display, refreshable braille display, which refreshes. And it took 6 years to basically bring this particular product to market from the first prototype. And technical challenges are really huge. Just to give one technical challenge, if you really look at this, has 320 braille dots which are moving up and down, and the movement of every braille dot requires 3 moving parts. So that means you have close to about 1,000 moving parts in this product, and each of these moving parts have to last 10 million cycles, which is a general requirement. Now that makes it reliability of such products a very, very big challenge. 100,000 moving parts, and each one requiring, let's say, 10 million cycles. We don't have many examples of products which we can quote. The very interesting aspect of assistive technology, it's not all about products and the people, but there are very strong aspects of provisioning of these and policy, as I mentioned, but also personal. If you really look at the world, and particularly India, we have very few people who can be called as, who can assess assistive technologies and probably recommend one to people who need it. For example, if you look at the mobility, you need orientation and mobility experts, occupational therapists, which are not in enough numbers. So designing a products when you don't have people to train and people to recommend requires you another bigger design challenge. Just to give an example, we had this product called Smart Cane a few years back, and initially we failed because the product reached the market, but we did not have enough trainers, and we had to take another 2 years to train thousands of people in India and even abroad who can actually deliver these products to people. But I think that that was necessary. And now this is being used by more than 100,000 users in various countries. The Another big challenge with assistive technology, as I said, is awareness. There are large population who are not even aware that assistive technologies exist. And even bigger problem is access, that how do you make it, how do you actually take it to the people? For example, if you really look at the government policies of, they have a very limited schemes to take assistive technologies to people, which is basically based on a concept of equality, but it doesn't work. And what we actually require is more of an equity-based provisioning system, which is still not in place. This requires not only to design products, but also work with governments and policymakers to see that the policies are changed so that your products reach people. And in many of the products which we looked at, why assistive technologies have terribly failed, particularly not only in India and abroad, is that most of the time people look at only the functional aspect, the utility of the product, the usability and user experience is completely ignored. Just to give an example, right now we have a program on making mobile apps accessible to people with visual impairment. If you look at any of the mobile apps today, the user experience comes because you have a strong visual elements built into it. The moment you have more and more visual elements, that means you're actually making it less and less accessible. These are examples. Suppose if I'm, let's say, people use Uber and Ola to book this thing, but the problem is you can't see how many vehicles are around, and those type of experiences are not available. And so the biggest challenge for designer is how do you actually probably balance accessibility and usability is still has not been fully resolved. And this is what these are my last couple of slides. We have another product or another, we can say, solution where we try to make pictorial content accessible to people with visual impairment. So these are, if you really look at thermoformed plastic sheets where you emboss the diagram and people can actually touch and feel. So India has never probably produced tactile diagrams, whether it's state governments or NCERT. Now we have converted class 6 to class 12, all the STEM books, math, science, including geography, economics, into an accessible format. When we started, we thought this is a very trivial process because thermoforming is not a rocket science, and doing such diagrams is this thing. But the bigger challenge came when you actually took these contents to the people. If I have a visual diagram such as one in the left, and if I just convert into a tactile version, the right side is actually a garbage for a visually challenged user. You can't make out any of those features which are there because the way the learning which happens through visual route and tactile route, visual perception and tactile perceptions are very different. So you need to completely redesign your pictures in order to make it compatible for the tactile route. Just to give an example, even you have to go back to almost very basics. If you go to, let's say, a school and ask, let's say, a kindergarten or a primary school student to sketch a house, every kid would draw an elevation of a house, but no visually challenged kid would draw an elevation because they have not seen one. They only draw the plan. They only show this is my drawing room and this is my kitchen and this thing, and they only show because their perception is purely through spatial movements within this particular house. So how do you actually even design the diagrammatic context? Semantics is a much bigger challenge, and this actually has thrown out many more PhDs. We have half a dozen people doing PhDs, understanding how does tactile route to learning actually happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. So we'll continue with the next presentations. And I think after the panel discussions, if anybody has a question, they can ask then. So we'll next go again in keeping with the online to offline move. So we'll ask Dr. Guru Prasad to maybe give his talk. And again, just to reiterate, we'll keep it to 10 to 12 minutes maximum, ideally 10 minutes. So Dr. Guru Prasad is an alumni, so it's also great to welcome him. He's a technocrat with over 30 plus years of experience, including product design and development, business development, design research, corporate development, business operations, digital fabrication and strategy. He's currently director, faculty of design, MIT World Peace University. Until recently, he was director and mentor at Imaginarium India, a diverse 3D printing company located in Mumbai. And before Imaginarium, he has worked in academia, focusing on product design, jewelry design, and PLM. He's also worked for companies like Crompton Greaves, Titan, and Tanishq in various roles of design. His specialities include 3D printing and its applications in healthcare, design for additive manufacturing, general management, corporate development, product development, business operations, strategy, and product marketing. So that's a very brief introduction, Guru. All to you.
Thank you very much, Vishal Singh, for such a generous introduction. I am really humbled by the experts on the panel, and it is always a happy, moment to come back to alma mater, either physically or virtually. Today I'm doing it virtually, though I wanted to be there. Because of some compulsions, I had to stay back today in Pune. And today, my message is design is all about thinking and making. And in some sense, that is going to be reinforced with the presentation what I'm making. Let me see if it moves. Yeah. So my idea of a designer is Leonardo da Vinci, a person who has multiple skills. So that's my idea of a designer. He could be called as whatever, but artist, engineer, inventor, maker, tinkerer, medical anatomy enthusiast, whatever you call it. But he, for me, is a kind of embodiment of a person what we can believe as a designer. And so designer is jack of all trades and master of design. That's what designer should be, because in a highly dynamic technological space we live in today, we need to keep learning always and keep updating and also moving to newer areas where we find value creation is possible. And probably that's what I also did. And you can see another important person for me is Henry Ford. Henry Ford cannot be called as an inventor, though he is considered to be an inventor. He is an innovator, So that is the difference between an innovator and an inventor. Innovator looks for ideas all around and tries to integrate them, And he saw carts being driven by horses, and he also found the engine, which is already, pulling carts, the carriages. So he brought in these two, force fitting these two, which resulted in a car, and he made a lot of money. And so I think in some sense, a designer should learn deeply about everything around him, and also he should be able to identify opportunities to create value, by not reinventing everything, but trying to use whatever available as a raw material. And so that is very important. In fact, in this, learn, unlearn, relearn is very important. And that's what I have been doing in my life too. We will come back to that, but I think it's very important. As designers, we should be ready to learn design, unlearn it at some point, relearn it, because the world is changing, and we have to change too. And so it is more of a reconfiguration that is important. So it's a cycle: learn, unlearn, and relearn will keep on happening. So many times I keep telling my professors that I'll come back to alma mater to learn new things. So that's very important to all of us. And according to me, design, as we see, it's about whatever we learned. Not only design, anything you learn. There are theories, there are tools, methods, and techniques, skills, application, and experience, and insights. All these things are going to influence us. So insights come much later, and this is where we can find that we can create value using those insights. So when we say application experience, it's about failures and successes. You will know what road to take, what not to take, and these become kind of very important learnings. So all along in our learning, we are trying to learn all the time, and we are going to become, insightful. And that is very important. And in fact, Alvin is one of the futurists and a writer of from US. He said, illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So in today's age, a lot of people have changed the design methodology. What we learned, people call it as the design thinking. And somebody tells design thinking is more to do with business than with the design. So how do you do design? So a lot of these things, which keep occurring to us as we move along. What will be future of design, for example, which is something which we are going to discuss later also. But I think the whole world is looking at a new customer. What are his aspirations of the new customer? That's very important. I'm an old customer, or I may not be a customer at all for most of the product which will come in future. So we should think of the child born today. What will be its aspiration? And so when designers are designing future, they have to keep it in mind. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent one. It is that one that is most adaptable to change. I think as designers, we are also no different. We have to be adaptable to change. If the coding is there, if Bitcoins is coming, if AR, VR, AI, ML, robotics are going to come, Industry 4.0 is going to come, we need to embrace all this and move forward. We cannot be left behind. So that's very important. So if you look at my own life, after my primary education, after my professional education, I went to teaching. After getting some degree specialization, I went to industry again. Again, I did learning. There was a teaching and learning happening together. Again, I went to industry, and research went on. During my industry time, well, I was teaching also, mentoring also, and all along, you can see there is a creative child, a maker, tinkerer, artist, actor, amateur astronomer, amateur radio operator, model maker, educator, speaker, and it goes on. Inventor, innovator, all these things keep on getting added to your profile. Well, I think that is very important. As industrial designers or product designers or any type of designers, we need to keep changing. the expectations are different. And so the domain people may become management people, where they look more and more into businesses, value creation, stakeholder management, those things. And then again, there might be a time when you can revisit your domain. For me, teaching is always about knowing better, and that's what I am right now doing. And in fact, I was fortunate to start my additive manufacturing journey at my alma mater, CPDM, IISc, which became, as destiny have it, to work on with a company which is focused on 3D printing. And I went about talking about this and making deep inroads into every industry possible, you know. And probably I would have, in my due course, interacted with many academics, many students, startups, many scientists, and many, industries, making deep inroads into why this is required. So there was a lot of impedance to adopt the technology. So what I call it as the thinking inertia. People had 200 years of thinking inertia. Then within the 35 years, a lot of things have changed. And in fact, we can today think the unimaginable and make the impossible. So how this is possible? Because of certain technologies. And you can see some of these, what you see, geometries are truly unimaginable. And with the conventional manufacturing wisdom, they are not manufacturable also. So it is like a digital kaleidoscope. You give mathematically equations, numbers and values, and keep saying what it takes on the screen. And if it is interesting, you export it and you print it using additive manufacturing. As simple as that. Today there are a lot of things like compliant mechanisms. What you see on screen are really possible. These are new mechanisms, compliant mechanisms that will work for a longer time than those which we have with links and joints. And this is a bill of material number just one, bill of material just one. And you can see some of these which are assembled and printed, have such capability, which will avoid any kind of pokoyoke that is required. And of course, we did a lot of things to make sense and make sensation. So these are some of the things which we created sensation. Black Lady, which I designed with the blooming lotus, and we went to the fashion show. These are all going to make sense of the super sense or sensationalization of the technology. And of course, a car. We made this super car, the 1:1 car, and hopefully one day it will run all by 3D printing. And in fact, I'm very proud and happy to associate with many projects from the alumni. This is made for Apurv Shankar. Apurv Shankar, I should really credit this because there is a lot of discussion that happened. And you can see it is world's first AI-powered finger ring. And he had to get help from Imaginarium. And it was about a lot of empathy that we need to understand designer, what he wanted, and deliver it. And this was very important for him because he was actually getting funded, demonstrating this. Likewise, we have actually helped many startups to get funded by actually providing them few working, real models. And in fact, today the world is looking at optimization and many tools to choose from. Autodesk Fusion 360 or NetFab or Materialize tools, Thentize and many others. People are looking at optimized designs. So in some kind of artificial intelligence is getting into the space where designers were actually making a decision. So what will be the role of designer here? We need to think.
Guru,
In fact, we also did work on mass customization. And,
Guru, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. If so, I'm just alerting on the time. So if you can sort of wrap in another minute or two, that'll be great.
Correct. I'm doing that. So in the previous slide, mass customization is going to be the future, and the design will lead the consumption. Manufacturing would be taken for granted in future. We did the same thing in terms of medical also. You can see kind of different things that would be made using additive manufacturing. And it is not just only humans, but also the flora and fauna. We have been working on many things which are very good examples of universal design and design for everyone, and including the birds and animals. And today I'm part of Faculty of Design, where I mentor two schools. School of Design, which offers BDes in product design, user experience design, visual communication, fashion and apparel design. A Bachelor of Interior Design is just started. And we also have another school, School of Visual Arts, where we work to make graphic designers, offering BFA and MFA. And this are all by research. I post my CPDM. I went to Japan and learned the designing through their principle. I strongly believe Shuhari is very important. That is, we first master, first we copy, then we master, and then we depart. And that is very important, which is also in line with Bloom's taxonomy of how we have the lower thinking skills augmenting the higher thinking skills, going to the creation. And product design, I think this is like a Bible for me, because this is how we go on to make our designers understanding, applying, evaluating, and creating. And I'm very happy that some of our students are looking for products, patents, and papers. And when we say products, some of them are selling it on Amazon. Steve Jobs says, real artistships. I think that there could not be any other example as your students actually putting products on sale on Amazon. I think with this, I would like to stop. Thank you, Vishal, for this.
Thank you very much, Guru. So let me apologize at the outset that we have such people with the experience, all four panelists, and we have such short time. But then that's the nature of the event, and I guess that sort of goes with what we ask our students. We ask them to make a presentation 15 minutes of what they've done over the year. So yeah. So now with that, I will go to our next speaker. So I'll invite Professor Cassini to give his talk. So Professor Cassini is a full professor at Politecnico di Milano, Department of Mechanical Engineering. His research interests cover design methods and tools with a focus on the concept generation stages, both for product and process innovation. He is associate editor of Journal of Integrated Design and Process, International Journal Process Science, and a member of the editorial board of the followings: Research in Engineering Design, International Journal of Design, Creativity and Innovation. He is also member of the advisory of the Design Society and co-chair of its Design Creativity SIG. He has coordinated several research projects, among others the European project Marie Curie, IAPP Forecast and Road Mapping for Manufacturing Technologies. Currently, he is the coordinator of multiple European projects. I've just taken one from there, Spark, which is spatial augmented reality as a key for co-creativity. He's co-authored more than 140 papers presented at international conferences and journals, and 13 patents. Again, a brief intro there from my side, but I'll invite Professor Cassini to talk about his work.
Yeah, let's go to the beginning. let's move on like this. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Vishal, for the introduction. Of course, thanks, Amaresh, for the invitation and the nice opportunity to be here in Bangalore. I will make it short, but it's a very nice opportunity for me. So, it was a nice opportunity to join this Jubilee event. And so, well, I decided to start with a little bit more, not the official part, but something about myself. I was born in the south of Italy, and so this is why I can withstand Indian food, because we also eat spicy food in the south of Italy. Then I grew up in Florence, which is maybe you know the heart of the Renaissance in Italy, and this helped me a lot in developing, let me say, a culture about the human aspects of design, even if I'm a mechanical engineer, so something totally different. And actually, I studied mechanical engineering in Florence, and then I joined Politecnico di Milano as an associate in 2008. And well, it was already said, so I will skip this one. Just maybe little updates, and I'm also very much honored to be an associate editor for Professor Chakrabarty of IISc. So that said, I was asked to talk a bit about the most significant design-related works I contributed to. And well, I reflected a little bit, and eventually I decided not to mention anything of those European projects or these grants that, of course, I mean, bring money and also necessarily they expect you to produce some outcomes. But if I do need to think about where I probably had a little bit more of impact, I have to go back to my earlier career. And so I decided to mention two things, something about trees, and if you don't know what trees is, I will briefly mention, and something about patent mining. So what is TREES? TREES is a Russian acronym, stands for Teoria Решения изобретательской задач, Theory of Inventive Problem Solving, and it is a theory or a methodology developed by this gentleman, Mr. Gerrit Saulovich Altschuler, after the Second World War, for approaching in conceptual design complex problems and producing inventive solutions. The entire methodology was developed by analyzing a bunch of patents, a bunch of inventions, and talking with a lot of inventors. And what Mr. Altschuler found was that in 99% of the cases, the inventions were not really new. I mean, the specific solution was new, but the kind of problem they were approaching with a proper abstraction process just followed some typical patterns. And not only the problems, I mean, appears again and again in different fields, but also the solution that inventors generate follow a quite limited number of inventive strategies. So he spent his life coding the most successful strategies for generating ideas in order to make them applicable in many different fields. This is very nice. If you want to know more about trees, you might just read that paper, which is a kind of summary of all the things I learned about trees. I mean, of course, it's just a paper, not a book, but it is a good summary, I would say. What I was saying is that this is the nice part of the story, but actually Mr. Altschuler was not an academician. This can be a good part or a negative part. For sure, as a good part, he really produced something applicable in industry that brings a lot of tangible advantages. At the same time, he missed the rigor of scientific research. And what happened? That after the collapse of the former Soviet Union, finally, trees started spreading, in the world, because before it was just delimited in the former Soviet Union for a number of reasons that I'm not going to talk about. And so we learned trees from the people who were working with him, who were not academicians again. So they, let me say, started work as consultant without a proper background. And so what happened is that trees was disseminated by people that were competing with each other. They were introducing new terms just to differentiate themselves from the competitors. And this brought to a non-consistent terminology, a very limited scientific rigor, but nevertheless, it kept going because it was way more effective than those methodologies that us academicians were developing in university. Okay, so what is your contribution, you might ask? Well, good. I had the chance, thanks to my professor at the time in Florence, to start studying trees in 2000. In 2003, together with others, of course, I co-founded the Italian Trees Association, where I was the first president until 2006. And the same then I followed in the European Trees Association right after. And in these organizations, I think that I contributed to the dissemination of trees among academicians and practitioners at the same time. And also, we established a center of competence on systematic innovation, that is in Italian, of course, that it is still ongoing, that delivers training and coaching activities to companies. And I would say that, well, we managed to really have an impact in the very sense of impact in that sense, since so far we have been working and introducing trees in a number of companies. Some of them are just Italian, but some others are well-known worldwide. And what I want to highlight, this is why I put this one, it's not to show off, but that the same methodology, I'm a mechanical engineer, I said already, but the same methodology was applicable without any specific field experience in electronics, in manufacturing, in pharma, in medical imaging, in postal services, what else? Okay, so the same methodology was very effective in all those. In terms of contribution to scientific development at the same time, we tried, not myself, within ETRIA, the European Trees Association, we struggled to bring more scientific rigor in the development of trees, in the development of trees research. And this was not easy. You know why? Because we had learned trees from these Russian gurus that are very proficient, very talented guys in inventing. But the point is that they don't follow a typical scientific discussion in the development of things. They come and tell you, okay, I invented this new tool, it works like this, and this is the demonstration. And they show one example of theirs that are so talented that it works, but this doesn't mean that it is applicable by others, just for an example. So what we did, we started reprocessing all the papers published by the ETRIA previous conferences, and we also contributed with other societies, so with IFIP, with CIRP, in order to bring evidence that trees could be also a matter of scientific study, because part of our colleagues in academia at that time was not really trusting. I must say that Professor Chakrabarty was one of the few who gave space also to trees papers, but many were just, no, that is just a blah, blah, blah. It's not serious, because there was a lot of blah, blah there. And then, of course, among other topics, I also supervised some theses dedicated to trees-related topics, or also contributed with some papers also dealing with trees. So this is more generic, but just to say, if I think maybe something that actually it was an impact from my side, this is the part. The second is kind of faster, but maybe also related and to a certain extent peculiar. I was mentioning patent mining. Well, what is a patent? I'm sure you know. Why a patent is relevant for a designer, maybe it is less obvious. I mean, patents is a typical activity for innovation management guys, in order to landscape a certain technology, to understand what the competitors are doing and this kind of stuff. So to decide whether it is worth investing in a field or not. And here you see some statistics by the European Patent Office saying that a lot of investments could be saved just avoiding to repeat what others already did and published. What is relevant for designers, though, is that 80% of the information which is available in patents is not available elsewhere, which is amazing if you think. And, well, of course, in patents, you can find a lot of things that are not really reliable. But to be honest, also in scientific papers, this happens. So we must be honest. So the point is that if you are, let me say, genuinely skeptical about what you're reading, you can find there a lot of value. So this was the motivation for working on patents. And what was my contribution, if I can say so, was to started applying natural language processing technology to patent text mining. What is natural language processing? Again, maybe I'm talking about something you know very well. It's that branch of science that stands in, let me say, in the intersection between computer science and linguistics. It's typically the core technology behind automatic translation, speech recognition, all these nice things that now are developing like crazy. What we started doing was to use this technology since the early 2000s in order to extract information from patents, using the fact that patents are semi-structured documents. So there are some specific tricks that we can build for patents that it would not apply on normal articles, websites, and so forth. So this is just a short timeline of the most important achievements, something like recognizing the invention functional elements and their functional interactions, recognize whether a patent is disclosing some traits contradictions, finding the peculiarities of an invention and measuring the similarity in functional terms between inventions. And then if you give to the system a bunch of patents from a field, recognizing what is the thesaurus, the semantic relationship in the field. So just to give you a very, very quick idea. So the idea is that instead of reading a patent, even just to understand whether this is relevant for your search or not, the idea is that we enrich figures with text labels that allow you not to read the text, but you see what is described there. And this is something, I'm just sharing what we started doing in 2001 and then it continued, but just to show you that we recognize the hierarchy of the components, so not just the list of components, but also which is subsystem of what, as well as we build the functional diagram. So a diagram where the functional interaction between the components are recognized. And if you see nested components, it means that roles are a subsystem of conveyor, which is a subsystem of the feeding mechanism, just to make an example. Well, nicely to know that the European Patent Office has built an internal tool that they don't share, but I know, I've been informed that they use it internally for their patent analysts, that is totally, self-produced, but it uses the same idea it mentioned one of the early patent papers that we published. And by the way, it is still an actual topic, since I just realized the day I arrived in Bangalore that Expert System with Application, a nice journal, published a new paper, a new article, dedicated to framework for mining trees contradiction in patents. So it seems still a kind of hot topic, I would say. That is, so takeaways, very briefly. Creativity, I didn't mention it explicitly, but it is really nurtured by knowledge. The more you know, the more creative you are. No doubts. In cognitive psychology, they tell us very much about this. We know a lot, and we have a very limited information processing with our brain. So the point is to arrive to the right piece of knowledge in our memory. And to do so, you need a systematic approach. And in this sense, trees is one of the best methodology I know to dig into the right piece of information. At the same time, more and more we need also explicit information, so not explicit knowledge. For instance, the ones archived in patents, and in this sense, also some AI tools can help in digging that. Thank you. Well, for those who like, there are some references there.
Thank you, Gaetano. Now we'll invite Professor Dibakar Sen for his talk. So let me very briefly introduce Professor Sen. I picked up a bio already from an earlier bio, so there are some numbers which are outdated, but I'll still probably continue with that. So Professor Dibakar Sen is a professor in the Center for Product Design and Manufacturing and the Department of Mechanical Engineering in IISc Bangalore. He did his PhD from IISc in 1997. Before joining IISc, he briefly worked for Steel Authority of India Limited and for ISRO. His research interests include human factors in design, digital human modeling, mechanical assembly simulations, virtual reality and haptics, simulation and design of mechanisms, etc. He has over 90 publications in journals and conferences. Three of 8 of his Indian patent applications have been granted. He received the prestigious Abdul Kalam National Technology Innovation Fellowship in 2021. As I said, some of the numbers may be outdated, but so.
Good evening, all of you. Thank you for the organizers for giving this podium, for sharing a few of my experiences, I should say. I'll not share any knowledge because in this area, I am still gathering experience. The knowledge is to be crystallized after many years. So I'll share only 2 such experiences as specified by Professor Vishal, and these 2 happens to be 2 of the products in which I spent quite some time. Right, not obviously through one project, but the theme being same. I worked for some time, and it has given rise to some good understanding of about these products. Right, so. First is the one of the loving product, I should say. We have been working on it, and it has given us some visibility, and it works, right? So we started from something that was not quite nice. There were 2 attempts which failed, right? Eventually, one of the products that the students worked and it succeeded is what we are mentioning. But before that, this project was offered to MDes students, and twice we did not succeed in achieving it. Okay, so I'll start from where we succeeded. And this is a demonstration that, my firm belief that the trade-off are for the misers. Right? If we are clever, we can have a cake and eat it too. Okay, so this is why I'm saying that this is an example of extreme functionality, extreme affordability, and extreme acceptability, all put together. That has been, I should say, achieved through, or certainly demonstrated rather than achieved, that it can be done. Okay, that's why it took somewhat longer, because each time we are focusing on one type of challenges, right? And as we solve one type of challenges, we see that it comes wrapped with other challenges. Okay, so challenges do not come alone. Right? This is one of the things that we saw through this experience. Initially, most of the design activities we start by solving technicality, right? And we feel proud about it. We prefer to publish and things. And then if we do not solve the other challenges, then it never sees the light of the day. So this is the story of Purak, wearable upper limb prosthesis. This is sort of a penultimate status of this picture. The present version of it as it exists we'll see in the last slide in this series. What is this extremeness? They're saying the fundamental design philosophy driving it is compromise, minimize without compromise. Right? So we'll be minimizing everything without compromising anything. So what are these? This is a sort of a short listing of things. It is lightweight. It weighs altogether less than 600 grams versus 1.5 kg, which becomes very heavy for the users in the competition, and it's affordable, roughly 1/20th of the price of a competition. It is extremely usable. It doesn't require any training. Worst case is 30 minutes. Best case is 5 minutes. This is for the time I are talking with them how to use it. After that, they get started. And that has been verified all over India, about 8 places, totally about 50 people. It was tried over a period of 6-7 months. And all of them, when you collate together, their ratings are very high, more than 85% of satisfaction. Right? This sort of gives a good feeling. Right? And it has got a lifelike appearance and fully articulated fingers and advanced features. What are they? It is universal variable grasp with feedback. I wanted one sentence that covers all. What is this universal? It holds and grasps objects of any size, any shape. The grasp force you can control, it can change, you can vary. So you can hold a paper cup as well as a steel ball. Okay. And it is the only device available, as far as we know, that gives mechanical force feedback about how hard you are holding some things. And it uses for actuation, we need to give it some stimulus such that it operates the motors. It is mechanical. So we say it, we do not know how to call it. We say mechanosensor. Sometimes you call it myomechanical sensor, because I don't know how to describe this. So it is in that sense that we say that everyone knows how to show their muscles like this, and that is nothing but an effect of actuation of muscle, which has a mechanical effect on that. And that we make use of, and it has got a ventilated socket. Okay, so in some sense, when you say all these good features, one expert told me that how can you have all good things in one thing? I said, maybe sometimes by chance. This is where we started. The first figure shows how we developed the fully articulated finger, purely mechanism design. Second one is also enabling some grasping of all shapes of things. Where is the cursor? How to get the cursor? Okay. This one shows the underlying basic mechanism that enables a grasping of arbitrary objects. So see, this was a CAD model developed, and the basic first system that was developed doesn't look pretty good, but it does the things quite well. And in this video, I do not know, I don't want to consume too much time, but this one shows an arbitrary shape objects. Egnathan, right? My great tributes to him. He's no more, but from very starting phase, he has helped us with the first-hand experience of things, and he showed that arbitrarily shaped things he can hold and things. Here, absolutely no electronics. It is fully mechanical. Only motor is electrical. Right? We are able to do things, and that gave us some, confidence in handling thing. And we've got some good funding from Wellcome Trust, and a 3-year project. We graduated from the first version, which was there as a part of the project, to the intermediate versions, which appeared more realistic. And this is the more commercial version, if you like. It is vacuum casted form of the male terminal device. This has gone through several changes. So this is so far as the socket is concerned, this is where it started. Then the 3D printed version with some leather harness. And then we, with the help of Mobility India's expertise in design of the sockets, we got rid of the harness, and now it is only a polypropylene socket without need of any extra harness. This is the development of the control module from a breadboard to a big chunk of electronics to a very small one, which goes inside the hand now within the control the terminal device. And this is the product stage. If you see, this is we call version 0, version 1, and version 2, which looks quite pretty. I am happy, right? And this has been then tested all over India, about 45 people, as I mentioned, and satisfaction the main points I mentioned. And main important part is that the expression of satisfaction. I'll give you one incident. After doing these experiments, you'll ask, because these are very structured set of experiments, you'll say, okay, now that you have experienced so much, do something that you wish to do, right? That was very touchy moment for us. That person started touching his own body, right? We said, what are you doing? He became very emotional and told, it has been many years since I touched this side of my body. Right? This is something we never think that they're what kind of thing they are. So one of my next dream is that with processes, I should be able to scratch where it is itching. Right? This is a requirement, not a very functional description, but when someplace itches, you know how urgent it is to scratch. And people who do not have hand, they cannot do it well. Right? So, but that requires certain reach and skill. Right? So we're still not there. Rather, what we're doing is to make this hand smarter, such that multiple activities they can do with ease. Right? So this is the spin-off from that, Grasp Bionics, and this is the present version of it. The two students who founded this company, Vinay and Nilesh, who earlier are the part of the original inventors, and they have started this company, and they're now making and selling the product. They are now still being incubated in institute, the SID. Now I'll tell second story on the domain of agrotech, and this started way back immediately, sort of after I joined the institute. The general manager of Tata Tea approached and said that, no, I want you to do this. I said, I know experience. He says, I don't mind, you do it. Right? So they had a requirement of mechanizing their harvesting for several reasons. I don't want to get into that. I'll share the development of that as it proceeded and what are the distinct challenges that this domain brings in. Idea was that a machine that should be designed for tea plucking on uneven terrain can be mechanized or manual, but should improve the plucking average without sacrificing quality of the harvest and without damaging the bed. And the machine should be simple, light, safe, and easy to maintain. Okay, what you don't want then, right? So now, thing is that to understand what is this requirement, I have a few slides, right? This is a case. The first one shows the harvesting of paddy, where what you cut is what is important. What is left behind, we don't care. We sometimes simply burn it. But when you are shaving, what you keep is more important. What goes, you don't care, right? But when you come for tea harvesting, what you get, the leaves are important. But what is left behind is called the bed. That is even more important. They don't mind losing some leaf, but the bed has to be retained because tomorrow's leaf will start from there, right? And that controls the overall quality and quantity of their produce. So that's why it is very important that you can't be ruthless. Okay, and additionally, you come to the point of maintaining quality. If you be ruthless, not only the leaf that you get is the leaf, what you leave is not good quality, but what you get is also not good quality. Because moment that tea leaf cracks, it starts oozing sap, and then that spoils its quality. Most of the available designs do not respect it. And we made sure that we must cut the shoot, not the leaf. So all our designs that we'll share with you will show that how we manage to cut only the shoot and not the leaf. It may not be obvious, but that is, you have to believe me, right? So we found that this is a knowledge that we produce to this exercise, that the harvesters have 5 stage and 5 functional elements in that, which does the job of identification, isolation, savoring, collection, and transfer. I call it IISc methodology because the initial parts is similar to IISc. I like to keep it. Right? The identification means make sure what you want. Second, keep the unwanted aside. That means when you're cutting the shoot, do not cut the leaf. Cutting the leaf is that you are not isolating what you want properly. Savoring, cut just what you need to, not other things. Collection, what you have cut, you need to gather it. Right? Otherwise, it will fall on the ground. What is the use? So transfer, you have to move to some service provider. Okay, so this put focused effort on each of the functions separately. You can say, let me design something which identifies what I want. Right? And I'll show you in different products how this is done. may not be directly explicitly evident, but wherever it's possible. So isolation, keep the unwanted aside and things like that. Okay. Now here, this video shows that how it is isolating what he wants, right? This bag is going only over the bed, and this one, I don't know if it runs. Yeah, all these very different scales, and this is showing how they're gathering it in a single place. When they're cutting and then the machine cut, all are finally put in a sack. Very glamorous name for collection and transfer, but exactly this, you have to take steps for that, and you should not spill. You have collected, but while pouring, if it spills over, then it is a loss. And this one is highly mechanized. Okay, very high volume, but still it does the spilling. You may consider not quite visible there because image is small, but thing is that productivity becomes very difficult to satisfy when different functionalities are involved. 99% of all this function, you'll ultimately get only 95%. 90% you get 50%. Okay, so to go to the other page. Okay, so in this, like usual, we explored the design, and finally in 2003 we had this particular design, right? I meticulously followed design methodology. My customer was a chemical engineer. He did not understand that design need to be repeated, and he thought, okay, this is an island manufacturer, you don't have to do anything. He took it, and the defects remained. Finally, it did not come to the field. It was first prototype was demonstrated that it is functioning, but it was design has to go through certain cycles. It did not say. So I thought, no, I cannot leave it that way. I offered it as a design project to the students. Main challenge that was there, without productivity, earlier the available design was 7 kilos weight, 3.5 kilo for the device, 3.5 kilo for the batteries. And more than 50% of the workforce are women, and they cannot carry this for working. So I put a hard restriction, all inclusive, it must not cross 1 kilo. And you have to give me at least the present productivity of manual harvesting without loss of quality. So they stayed there for a couple of weeks, understood the problem, and finally they designed this product, right, which definitely satisfied my requirement. Altogether it weighed 800 grams, and it could do more harvesting than the manual work. And this just puts on 2 slides what is the achievement. Hand plucking gives 30 to 40 per head per day, and this is designed for a device of 120 kilo per hand, because potentially you can do it 2 hands, and because it doesn't require continuous eye engagement for harvesting, there is less the cognitive loading, neck pain, all these things will be less. But unfortunately, this is at the design prototype level only. This was not field tested. Okay, and with respect to the other available product, that it also does very well. Okay, so this is methodology that we told, that IISc methodology then was taught to other students who wanted to harvest a design, and this has been quite a good success, I should say. Then 2013, the cotton picker by Nikhil Mestram and Nitin Gupta, right? This was the outcome of that, and here we can identify again, if I point out all the 5 components, the 3 main components we say that isolator, severer, and collect gatherer are always embodied. Okay, so this is the embodied IISc, and this is a harvester for black pepper, and this is a harvester for sea buckthorn. It turns out that all are 3 years gap, but somehow it happened, right? Out of which sickle innovation that was started by Nikhil and Nitin and Vinay has seen a good amount of success after they established that, and still he feels that this methodology has helped him to design many other harvesters effectively. Now, this is actually for further discussion about my idea of design that starts with emotion, grows with commotion, and then ends either the problem or itself. I'll stop with this slide. Thank you.
So I'll keep the second part quick. I think we'll have given that we have exceeded the time in the first part significantly. So I had 4 or 5 questions for the panel. I'll reduce it to 2. so that we can sort of also have time for our alumni. Just bear with me for a minute and then I'll. Okay, if we can have all the panelists, yeah, we have everyone on screen. I'll just, one moment. Okay, so what we'll have in this round is we'll go through some questions on, we'll ask all the panelists some basic questions about, the understanding or their views on design. So the first question, and maybe we'll start in the same order. So we can start with Professor Rao, and then we can go here. So I'll combine the two questions. One is, which many of you have covered already. What's your understanding of design, and what do you think of design? But the question I'm combining here is that how has your understanding of design evolved from where you started your career to where you are at this moment? And if you can keep it brief, and just let's say in a couple of minutes, and I'm of course asking a lot, but if you can do that, that will be great. So Professor Rao, if you could start with that.
Thanks again. Yeah. Do you see some info?
We can hear you, Professor Rao.
Okay. Because there is some info which is happening here. Okay. Okay. Let me go ahead. Okay. I think I looked at all the 5 questions, and particularly specifically the one which you asked. And so if you really look at the journey of product design, etc. So I look at design as anything which probably adds a value. So this value can be an aesthetic, it can be technical, it can be a sociological, it can be a business. And accordingly, we do have people who are, for example, somebody can say that I'm a designer who can add only an aesthetic value. And I think it's well taken. And I think that's one way to look at. The other one is as somebody who is an experienced designer, or I would call it as a design leader, would be probably open to all ways of adding a design and probably having an experience, and will not restrict in one way or the other. And accordingly, I think we do have designers, you can say, people who can be highly disciplinary, which is there. Somebody says, I come from a specific area of a design, and I specialize in one area, and I can probably add a value in one way. But I think as you go ahead and probably experience more, when you go from design school to more from an industry, you try to understand the broader aspect. Many people try to become more transdisciplinary, trying to adapt other ways of adding values is one which we have seen. But there are also situations where you would probably like to look at design as a more interdisciplinary, where you have a group of people, each one adding a value in a very different way. So in other words, the journey has been that when you start from a school as a design education and a designer, you start with certain assumptions. But I think the moment you go into real world and look at it, generally your horizon broadens. And I would think that probably the design has changed drastically from somebody who is treated as a service provider to slowly somebody who is now considered as also assuming leadership positions, participating in strategy of organizations, and probably playing a much more broader role than somebody who was just, you can say, considered as a service provider at one time. We have seen that. And the second aspect which is there is key, if you really look at some of the best design houses and schools, have now the one word which you see, which is probably common among more of them, is also innovation. So somehow that journey from design to innovation has happened in most of the organizations. So the moment you say innovation, you are by default an interdisciplinary or nature, and trying to bring address all the issues. You don't want to, for example, if you're doing a product design, you would, or if you're say I'm an innovator, or if I'm doing an innovation of a new product, then the idea is that you don't want to leave even one reason because of which your product or solution can fail. And that makes it much more interdisciplinary. And we have also seen that happening in design schools across. For example, people who were traditionally good in one aspect of design, bringing technology institutions as collaborators, whether it's a RISD Brown model or whether it's a RCA Imperial model, or whether it's a MIT's integrated design programs. So I think probably the need of the hour is based on last many years of experiences. You would also like to have designers who are more leaders, entrepreneurs, and somebody who are visionaries and can build organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for summing up multiple questions in one. So I think you've covered it well. So Dr. Guru Prasad.
Well, I think PVM has already summarized everything. Nothing left. According to me, I think designer as an entrepreneur is something need of the hour. Many times designers are not, they're kind of hesitating to get into entrepreneurship, and I think they have everything except that probably the business acumen, if that is also supplemented or by collaboration, that is by putting a management personnel, a engineer and a designer, that becomes a good cocktail for innovation, to take it and foster it, that kind of thing. For me, designer is like any other professional. There is nothing great about them. They have a job of improving a particular it is a purposeful activity. It is not by accident, or it's not a hobby. It is a purposeful activity where a client has a problem and you go about solving it, applying design tools and methodology. Okay. But the nature of it is such that it is iterative. So it doesn't come in first time. As Professor Sen also mentioned, several times one has to do. It is not about the limitation of thing. It is cognitive overflow. Maybe externalizing idea is better done three-dimensionally by making a prototype. So prototype as a means of design process is very important. And many of them, companies don't realize that. Probably they realize it much later. So I think we should not worry about how many times you make prototype, how many times you fail. More you fail, a better way of making things. And that way, I think designer for me is a learner for lifetime, and is humble, and is a guy who is ready to ask any question, has a contempt for everything. Why this? Why that? So he should be an embodiment of empathy. Contempt means you touch something, it is not good. That kind of sensitized person can only become a good designer. And a good designer can be a good entrepreneur also, because he will go after it. Entrepreneur is one who doesn't drop it, no matter how many times he failed. And that's what I have seen. People who are successful, or those who went about that passion of making it perfect, uncompromising. So I think that's very, very important for designing. And for me, it is like common sense. Design is, judged by everyone. So you be humble, be ready to be criticized by everyone, common man to an expert. And I think that's also a very important aspect of a designer and his design life. And as design leaders, I think designers should not get compartmentalized as only confined to the table. You should go about meeting people, communicating, because organizational design, the business design, these are wider, impactful role a designer can contribute to. So they have to be open to explore.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru. So just in interest of again reiterating the question. So the question is, as how has your own understanding of design evolved over the years?
Sorry, I was trying to switch on the mic.
Sorry. So I'll repeat. So over the years, how has your understanding of design evolved? From
Sorry. So the same question. It didn't change.
Right.
Sorry. Well, of course, I subscribe what the colleague said. I would like to remark a couple of things. If I think what happened since when I graduated in 1996 to now, I would say that also engineers, I would say more, also mechanical engineers pay way more attention to human factors with respect to what used to happen. I mean, industrial designers normally used to do so, but mechanical engineers not much. And actually, it is so nice that panelists of this evening, I mean, starting from the first to the last one, gave brilliant examples of how it is important to consider human factors in design. So this is something that, again, I saw emerging. And I would say that the immediately and consequent step is to increase the attention to ethics in engineering design as well, because the implications of our choices has a dramatic impact on what happens in the world, in the society, and so forth. So it is not just a matter of targeting one specific category of users or whatever. It is to really embrace all the consequences that we are going to have. Let me say, not putting always the profit as the first criteria. A second major thing that I would like to remark is that I think that we have seen, even, I mean, if now we are talking about artificial intelligence more and more now, but I would say that if we think properly, we have seen that computerized tools have embedded more and more, let me say, competence, knowledge year after year. I mean, if I go back 20, 25 years, if you want to make a finite element simulation, you could not do it if you didn't know properly solid mechanics. I mean, there was no way. Nowadays, you could, in principle, don't know almost anything about that. Push a couple of buttons and you obtain the results, which has pros and cons, actually. And let me stretch it a little bit more. What happens is that even if you know solid mechanics, but now, since you know how to make a structural analysis, you can just, in the same simple way, also to make a fluid dynamics analysis, or maybe an electromagnetic analysis and so on, but you don't really have the competences to understand whether the results are credible or not. And on the one hand, it is more and more important to be able to work with a multidisciplinary, multi-physics perspective, because nowadays tasks require multi-domain competences. But so, I mean, and you must be efficient. You cannot know everything. But at the same time, if you just trust blindly to what tools propose, the risk is that you will get a rebound effect. So, well, I would say this is a kind of warning, since it is not really possible to be a specialist in any field. Of course, we have to know how to properly collaborate with colleagues from other disciplines, exploiting fully the knowledge that they have in their domain, and at the same time, of course, bringing our our own. And what I would like to remark in this sense is something that I properly realized just recently in one of our multidisciplinary courses, is that when you put together students, I would say designers from very different fields, what happens is that they don't share the same language, and this is kind of obvious. The point is that at that point, in order to be convincing, in order to manage to the other teammates to accept their ideas, what they do is that they tend to simplify. Sometimes they tend not to fully exploit their specialist knowledge, because it is easier to explain something that maybe underuses specialist knowledge, but it is easier to communicate. And this is a risk. So we have to learn how to fully exploit our specialist knowledge, still working with people who have a different background.
Thank you. Professor Sen.
Okay. Same question?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I wonder about this main question, that how my perception has changed, I see that there are basically 3 stages. I'm coming from engineering background, so anything that I see, I try to address it technically. And in technical problem solving, the word I becomes very prominent. I solve it because I know it. It is my expertise. That is, when I started this activity, I find that that was the focus. And after some time, I find that I do it, I feel happy, but no one takes it. That means for whom I'm making, that person is probably important. And after some time, instead of I, it would become you. So I named my lab itself as user-centric design, such that the word you comes before I, right? So then it became you and I. But then recent development is that I find that this is not I, because I don't know everything. I can't know everything. So it must be we. So collaboration, getting together people who know a lot of things, together interact to address a situation rather than a problem. And situation never comes from a person. A situation by definition exists there. It doesn't come. So I for you becomes we for you, but both are now plural. That is my now present view of the nature of involvement. In terms of if you see the activities, it becomes more than technical. See, one particular thing that happened, we developed this prosthetic hand, and then we went to the again to the users that without showing it that what kind of money you are ready to spend for the prosthesis, right? You'll be surprised. Very few people were volunteering more than 10,000 rupees for a prosthesis. They lost their arm, right? A prosthesis of tooth required 57,000 rupees, and for an arm, they're not thinking about more than 10,000 rupees. Now, if I go by their requirement, their wish in that sense, shall I be able to solve it? Right. So there is a need for a more comprehensive understanding of the person who can buy 50,000 rupees a mobile phone every 3 years. Definitely will be able to spend 1 lakh rupees, right, for his own hand if it works. Now that project is succeeded, now we are getting calls that people are saying that how much it costs, right? Up even 2 lakh, I am ready to buy. That was first told to us by I think from Lions Club, that don't limit yourself with the upper limit on its price. Think about a good product that works, and then we'll see how to reach the appropriate user. So this is also a new development of how we understand the requirements or need of a particular product so far as you want to provide a service.
Okay. Right. So I'll go with this last. I'll just and the quick answers on this. So maybe I will start with you, sir. What's the next frontier in design research, design practice?
I don't know.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I don't know in the sense that it cannot be a set target. It depends upon, because design by very nature is doesn't have its own limb, right? It depends upon the development that happens in across different fields. Right now, we'll be biased to say that AI, ML, the robotics will dominate, but that is a type of activity. It is not that mechanical problems have been solved. So battery technology, because anything you do, whatever aspect you take, in the design, you see, with the concept of sustainability, it became more holistic. With environmental sensitization, it became more holistic. So this holistic view of anything that we create, what is its impact, not on the person who is consuming it, but also on the people who is not consuming it, and what happens, are you planning for product retirement, right? How are you going to retire it? All things are being talked about, but the holistic approach that is there, that is going to be there.
Professor Kasim, same question.
Yeah, well, I will make it very short also because we are kind of running late. I would say that there is, for instance, a lot of talking about design automation. There is also at the same time we see in a manufacturing line, for instance, more and more studies about cobot, collaborative robot. Well, my I would say dream, but also I'm confident that this is a relevant direction of study to think about how to make designers collaborate with computers, collaborate, not be substituted, to properly exploit the explicit knowledge that exists there, but still bringing the creative ability of human being. So if I want to close it, rather than artificial intelligence, I would say it would be nice to think about augmented human intelligence.
Great, thank you. So Professor Rao.
Okay, thanks. So I think what I see going ahead is maybe the boundaries between design and innovation getting blurred is what I see. So right now you can say that I have designs, but there are no takers. But you cannot say the same thing saying I have innovations, but there are no takers. It sounds very, I don't know, odd. So what we feel is that that's one thing which I see, that a more, I would say, a more holistic approach to design, where your end goals are probably, unless they benefit somebody or unless add a value, you won't consider it as a design going ahead, would be one way I look at it. And the second thing which I also see, particularly from the education perspective, is if you really look at the design education, it actually started more as a practice-driven, apprenticeship-driven kind of a thing. But we also would see it's already there, but I think more and more of design schools which not only are leveraging on design practice, but also design research. So if you really look at an analogy which comes from an engineering, we did have schools like Harvey Mutts and Olins and Rose Hellmans, which probably did not have strong research programs. But I think they have done well. But I think if you really look at the other schools, you can say Harvard, MIT, Stanford, which also have engineering programs which are both research and practice driven. I would see that transition happening in design education.
Thank you. Dr. Guruprasad.
Well, I think looking at the future of design, more and more automation will push designers to rediscover themselves. Probably if automated designs are going to come, designers will play a role of a curator, selecting the best design, probably good for people. That could be one direction I see. The other one is mass customization, that is democratizing design. So how to make every customer a party to designing. Okay, so you have a gamification kind of interface where they take part. They think I made it, I created it, that kind of effect. So I have been teaching this subject, which is a futuristic subject, mass customization. I started at NID. These 2 courses went very well. And I think that's one direction I see the future customers would look for customization, just about anything. So product being so complex, everything they cannot do. So few things, parameters are given to them to play around and feel happy and gratified that I created it. You know, that feeling, I think that's where the design is heading. And I think, as Professor PVM mentioned, research, research about just about everything, designing a new material, for example, because the world needs, we need to take care of the lonely planet Earth. So sustainability, biomaterials, then concept of cradle to cradle, then cradle to grave would take a priority. And so people would be discovering and working on designing new material that are good for us, which are sustainable. I think these are the directions.
Right. Thank you. So thank you all. So I think in the interest of time, I'll close the panel discussion here. So we'll just give them a big hand.
Thank you.
And now I'll request our 5th batch of alumni to please come on screen. You're all there. So if you could just, come on the camera, introduce yourselves. Where have you been? What have you been doing? Right. So, yeah. So I think there are more people here. So please come on the camera. Tell us about your journey since you graduated. What have you been doing? Where you are? And, that's the brief story you would like to hear. So your call, who would like to start? Maybe Amol. We go in alphabetical order.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Vishal. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, hello, sir. Very nice to meet everyone online after a very long span. I think last I've met Professor Chakravarti at Pune, I think around 3 years back when there was an alumni meet. Of course, I'll just quickly introduce. I graduated in 2003, so 5th batch. And after my graduation, I naturally we get into a job. So I worked with a multidisciplinary design firm called Elephant Design in Pune. Okay, and there, after doing a lot of work in packaging design and plastic injection molded products, retail, and many other things, one portion of the design, which was retail design, excited me because of my background in architecture, and I further moved to a US-based company after 5 years with Elephant Design, and I worked there for another year or two, and then later I worked with a veteran retail designer who's himself an architect called Ratan Batli. After that, I got a sense I was working as a design consultant, not like an employee. In 2001, I started my own firm called Vertex Design. We initially started with retail fixture designs for fixture manufacturing, brands basically. And eventually we got into Reliance Retail, wherein we were part of the design team where we used to design fixtures for their different brands. So that's how our journey has been. And then eventually we are not only designing, but we're also doing project management. So we design and do project management. We give an end-to-end service. So that's where, as a designer, I have learned adding a lot of value to the education I got in CPDM.
since I was a graduate in architecture, my engineering knowledge or the detailing skills or the prototyping, that part was really developed well. In fact, while I was studying, I used to go to a furniture manufacturing company in Pinia. So all that put together, all these years of experience has really brought in a lot of knowledge, and that's where today as an entrepreneur, I'm able to kind of capitalize on that. I have a team of 10 people, out of which 4 people are at the sites. We do pan-India projects, right from Ranchi to Coimbatore to all parts of thing. To name a few, we have been working with Hamleys as a brand, which was bought over by Reliance at an international brand. And we are fortunate. We got an opportunity with McDonald's also. We're doing restaurants for them. We're doing with ITC at airports. We're doing the smoking lounges and the kiosks and all that. So there are bits and pieces, different kind of projects what we are doing, and definitely enjoying each day with new challenges, and also looking at how to build the team as much as possible, motivate them. And parallelly, I also am a visiting faculty where Guru is also there, and it's MIT School of Design, where we have our alumni, Suman Devidullah, who approached me in one of our alumni meet, and we designed a professional elective, wherein retail design was developed completely. Me and Suman did that, and it really was a good success, where the idea was to make the students more industry absorbent. Okay, not only have students of BDes graduates only in pure architecture, pure product design, but they also have diversified views. So that's where, and I also taken students as apprentice, train them. We are working with other manufacturing companies wherein developing new products, like in terms of fixtures, not any other products. So that's how my journey has been last so many years, 20, 25, we graduated 23, so almost 20 years now. Next year I'll be completing 20 years. So 19 years after graduation, it's been a really awesome journey. And thanks to all my professors and the institute, with a good tag here. And definitely whenever I talk on any forum, okay, with the IISc tag, it's always really feeling proud to also see being India's #1 institute in research. And I wish, lastly, to say that I want to also get into the research part, understand how we can see that there's a lot of research into retail design, which is a very upcoming field. So let's see how it happens with my time and energy. Hope one day I can able to contribute in the research area also. But so far so good. Thank you so much for opportunity for me to speak on this forum.
Great, thank you, Amol. Great to hear from you.
Thank you, Sushil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
History, if you could, please come on the camera.
Hello, good evening, all professors and my classmates, batchmates, and now our juniors. I also with Amol passed our MDes in 2003, so it's been a long time, almost 20 years. And so since then, I've been part of the design team in Videocon for a year and a little more. And then I was also for a long time, I think around 8 to 9 years with Dismania Design in New Delhi. And after that, I did some freelance work as well. And currently, I'm pursuing my doctoral studies with IIT Delhi design department here.
Wow.
Great, thank you. Thank you for this avenue. Yeah.
So who goes next? Kiran, are you up for it? Or would you want to go last? Kiran had requested going last, but if you
no, I'm up for it. No worries. Yeah. Right. Only thing is I'm standing in a little natural setup. Unlike all of you sitting in offices and podium. Okay. I was out for a prototyping visit. So, I mean, couldn't reach back before 5. So I thought I will do it from here only. Okay, good evening, everyone. And first of all, a very warm hello to professors uh, and a very warm hello to all my friends. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's 19 years since we passed out from the institute, and it feels just like yesterday, a couple of years ago or something. And we have been fortunate to gain so much from the institute in those 2 years. Almost, I mean, it's like when we entered and when we came out, uh, it's like a 180-degree shift in our approach, in our learning direction, and how do we look at things and whatnot. I mean, it's a complete transformation. It's it was a very wonderful period of our life. I mean, after that, I mean, passing out from institute in 2003, straight out of campus, luckily got into my dream job. We were two of us in our batch, me and Rajesh, who were very, hep for automotive design career and all the, So luckily, uh, I got into Tata Motors, and uh, it was a wonderful period of close to 8 years or 9 years, over 8 years. I worked with Tata Motors in different roles. There I got to work on multiple domains of design: interior, exterior, passenger cars, commercial vehicles. Uh, you know, I was lucky enough to work on one of the most flagship products of Tata Motors that time, and also one of the most entry level products where people pay 5 rupees and they're uh, transported from one place to point A to point B, as we typically call in this corporate. So it's a very, I mean, versatile experience that we got, and thankfully, because of the design thought process which was inculcated by in the institute, we could cope up with these different products irrespective of the expertise that's required there. We could develop that on the fly. After that, I shifted to a typically CPDM thing. You are multidisciplinary always when you are from CPDM. So got kind of stagnated in this automotive domain. Then I moved on to a packaging company where we started innovation center in packaging design. It was largest privately held packaging company called Parsons Packaging after ITC. ITC is a listed. So that was next to ITC in India. And there we started innovation center. I was there for close to 2 years. We filed few patents. We got granted couple of them. And also we registered almost 35 to 40 designs in a span of 12 months. So that was something really exciting about how FMCG industry works, packaging, where time you have to be on your toes, finish things very fast, turnaround time has to be less, etc. Again, okay, packaging was done. I thought, okay, now we have to do something different, and got an opportunity to lead or head the design team of JCB India, the construction equipment manufacturing company. And there I was with JCB for close to 3 years. And that was a very interesting experience where, when we say transportation design, wheels are used for moving people, moving goods. But in that industry, though it feels like a transportation industry, wheels are not used for moving people or goods, but they're used to move the machine itself. So it's a completely different experience where you have to you have to design for those rough environments, you have to design for those tough things that the machine impacts against and all those things. And at the same time, that was a time when industrial design was not very uh, required, so to say, in automobile design, this construction equipment thing. But a lot of competition was coming, and obviously people wanted to make machines look more interesting, more appealing, and more meaningful. It's not just uh, it's not just interesting looking, but it has to be meaningful looking. It has to communicate what it is doing. So if something is lifting a load, the machine should look like it lifts a load rather than it drags a load, and stuff like that. So a lot of different thought processes had to be put in. That was also very interesting period of my life. But most interesting thing started after that. I went into entrepreneurship. We started our own studio. My wife also happens to be an industrial designer from IIT Guwahati. So both of us partnered in, and we started our firm Studio Key Designs. And as you could see, I mean, we are a multidisciplinary place. We are working on n number of different products. We are working on automotive products. We are working on tractors. We are working on construction equipments. We are working on cleaning robots. We are working on packaging design, and my wife Madhavi, being an architect before getting into design, also working on some kind of space design and commercial spaces and all. So we have not limited ourselves, or we don't intend to become specialist in, like, this is an automobile design place, this is a construction or a consumer goods space, etc., etc. In India, when we pitch to a new client, it becomes very difficult. They say, "Yeah, if I can go in English, Hindi, typically the way people ask, यार तू ट्रैक्टर डिजाइन करता है तो मेरा मसाले का पैकेट कैसे डिजाइन करेगा?" I mean, to translate that, if you're designing a tractor right now, how can you design my spice packet? It becomes very difficult to convince, boss. The principle is same. It doesn't matter. We have to stick to that. What customer needs and design according to it. But yes, doing so many things, and we have been a bit, a little busy because of this multidisciplinary nature. But it has been the most exciting period after passing out from CPDM. These last 7 years are like, okay, everything that we have learned stuffed into these 7 years. And actually engineering also, I don't know. We have had a lot of discussion about approaches of design schools and all in past. And Professor Sen will remember, we have had some heated discussions about that also in the very initial days of CPDM. But I must confess on this forum that, sir, you were absolutely right in the approach that you guys have founded, because of the same thing, we can take up end-to-end product design projects. We can write from market research, design research to engineered product. We can deliver complete solution under one roof, because of the foundation that has been laid in the institute. I think that's all. Without taking too much of time. Actually, I've taken too much of time, but
that's great.
Could not control my excitement.
It's always great to hear. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, sirs.
Yeah, Pramod.
Yeah, hello all. This is Pramod, same 2003 batch. Thank you, Vishal, for this invitation, and it was nice seeing all of you again. Yeah, so after my masters, I've worked with Ashok Leyland for 3 years. Then I worked mainly on ergonomics and component design, plastic designing, and all those aspects. Then I worked at General Motors, where I worked as a digital sculptor. I did a lot of CAD, really understood why that few of moving some CVs matter so much in making the form really good. I had really multi-country or multi-brand experience of working with cars, interiors mainly. Then something told me in my heart that I should go back to research, because that is what I think Professor Amresh Chakrabarti has sown that seed in me that somewhere I believe that I'm a researcher. So I came for a PhD again at CPDM. Did my PhD, took quite long, and then worked in PS University and Ajinkya Deva Patil University, two private universities. I felt that, okay, I really thought about design education, what is happening, because it was a very different culture there. Then I applied for Marie Curie. I got my Marie Curie postdoc, worked at Denmark Technical University. And then I came back and joined at Department of Design, IIT Delhi. And now I'm associate professor there. Few things about CPDM. It really widened my understanding of design, and I feel really fortunate. The kind of discussions we had during our courses were phenomenal. And you can go into industry working really well and coming back to research is the risk-taking ability. But I have already proven that ability while doing my MDes at CPDM. I did my minor and major project both with Professor Divakar Sen. And so, but I thoroughly enjoyed those two projects. Thank you for everything, CPDM and all the lovely professors there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. Nimesh.
Sure. Hey, hi, Vishal. Thanks. So hello, first of all, my classmates or batchmates, and then hello, respected professors. I'm glad, yeah, after so many years we are together. Even when my classmates are in Pune, we are getting to meet after so many days. So thanks to all of you for arranging this. Now, here is my brief journey. After 2003, when I passed out from MDes program, I worked for L&T, mechanical division, and it was for that unit is dedicated for developing products for defense industry. Now, I worked for one of the projects I would like to mention here, because one of my console is sitting in Sriharikota, helping the ISRO team tracking their GSLVs and PSLVs. But what I did wasn't a rocket science. It was applying some standards which I learned from my product design days and putting those consoles together. And after my L&T experience of about 2 years, I was thinking I should go and try those products which the consumers, the masses would see. And that is where I made a switch and joined Desmina Design. And I was in Mumbai office of Desmina Design, and Christy was in the Delhi office of Desmina Design. And I will be very honest to say here that I didn't do great stuff there. I did work on multiple projects that gave me a very good flavor of coming from designing such a mechanically or mechanical or specialized field-focused products, which are where the ergonomics would and functionality would take so much of a predominance, because on the battlefield, who is there to appreciate the aesthetics, right? When the situation is to do and die. And from there, when I come to consumer goods design in Desminia, that was a little bit of struggle for my aesthetic sense to, applying that to products and making it successful. But a very good learning through those years. And through those years, what also happened was my exposure to the digital products increased. And that got me very much interested because I had a passion for programming languages also. And that part of my logical brain probably, brought me to the, and that is where I made the next switch. I joined HFI, Human Factors International, and I worked for 4 years there and designed interfaces for tablets, the web applications, native applications, and so on. And HFI offers its own certification, which was my added knowledge on top of the knowledge design knowledge that I gathered in the CPDM course. And after HFI, I joined Infosys, and till today I'm in Infosys. Exactly yesterday I completed 10 years in Infosys. And now we call ourselves user experience designers. So here I started as a lead and then gradually started managing team. And now I see a portfolio where I have designers and I guide them. That's where some design management comes into picture. And I also do the resources, staffing, that operational stuff. And also, or major part of my days goes into handling escalations, because many of these projects, client has something to say always, and there are these things that I take care of it. So that's my journey from a mechanical engineer to product designer to usability specialist to experienced designer in a nutshell. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank
and
you.
one more thing I would like to say here. So all the students there sitting, I'm not able to see. Please feel free to connect, and don't be hesitant. If any of you are, well, I know you are into physical product design, but if you are into digital product designs, do approach any of us. And yeah, thank you, Vishal.
Yeah, great, thank you. So I know Rajesh is traveling somewhere in between, but Rajesh, if you can join, and yeah, great. Yeah, there you are. Rajesh, you're muted.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So good to be here. Thank you, Vishal, for this invite. I'm seeing some of my batchmates after almost like 19 years. Yeah, so good to see you guys.
Hi, Rajesh.
So yeah, I left CPDM like rest of them, but I left the CPDM with two dream things. One is with the dream girl and with the dream job. So I'm continuing my dream run even now. So yeah, I've been working in Maruti because I got campus placement when I was in CPDM, and I joined Maruti, and I'm still with Maruti. So I started as an exterior designer. So initially, I did some minor changes like front and rear, but over the years, I think more than 10 minor changes I've done, and 5 concept cars, and starting with A-Star, and recently Future OE. That's close to 5 concept cars, and full body in probably 3 you guys already saw on roads, and 3 more are coming by next 2 years. So if you notice Brezza on road, the first generation Brezza on road, that's completely designed, sketched by me. I defined the proportions. I'm very proud of that. And that's the most successful entry-level SUV that is running on roads. 5 consecutive years, 7.5 lakh vehicles sold, and car of the year. So yeah, thanks to CPDM and the way they taught us, I think you can see the fruit of that on Indian road. And if you're following automotive news, 2 days back we launched the 2nd generation Brezza. That team I led, my team did it. So again, 2 generation of same car I've done. It's a unique privilege, but yeah, that's what is happening currently. Yeah, one experience I still remember from CPDM is Dr. Sen is sitting there. In one of our intermediate presentations, as soon as we started presentation and Dr. Sen asked some question, I froze, and I could not speak after that. Okay. And Christy, who introduced herself this evening, she was my partner, and she finished off the presentation. But the major takeaway I took from that is how well you need to prepare yourself when you stand in front of people, and how confidently you should be able to present your work. So there are many learnings from that. I always remember Professor Sen for that, and I thank him, and Christy knows about that. Yeah, CPDM has taught many things apart from design. I think I'm very thankful for that as well. And today I stand in front of the management, not only Maruti, Suzuki management. I give presentations, and whenever I give a presentation, I remember Dr. Sen and the learnings he had given me. Okay. Yeah, that's all. My journey has been exciting. So as I'm enjoying not my job, but what I do inside the job, I enjoy that. So that made me stick with Maruti for all these years. Yeah. But I want to see more of CPDM designers come from the CPDM in automotive industry. I don't see that much. I think if you are passionate and if you are keen to join automotive, I'm always available, and you can reach out to me. I can help you in that as well. I think Saurabh is not here, but one more thing I want to celebrate along with all of you guys is Saurabh is the first batch student, and he heads Maruti Suzuki Design Studio. And I am there next to him heading the studio as well. So yeah, in automotive industry, #1 automotive company in India, headed by 2 CPDM alumni. So that's all I have to say. Thank you once again.
Great.
Very nice. Nice to hear, Rajesh.
Yes, absolutely. I think we had Saurav in the first event. We also had him be a member of the panel and one of the events as well. So, and of course, we hope to meet all of you in person in the 25th event. So with that, I think we have already exceeded our time. So I'll invite Professor Chakravarti to once again come and felicitate our ambassadors. So those who are in person, we'll give them certificates here. For the others, we'll send the certificates by post or once you are here. So yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so what incredible experience of listening to all these wonderful journeys. My sincere thanks to all of you, in particular all the panel members and our ex-students, alumni. And now, of course, the most pleasant duty is to share our certificate of appreciation for our newest ambassadors. So I'm just waiting for Vishal to give me and then pass it on. There you go. All right, so Professor Gayatri, our 9 ambassadors. Thank you for doing this. That's okay.
You've taken? Okay, yes, he's taken the photo from there. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, right.
And then, it's not a same goal. I appreciate the wonderful friendship.
Congratulations.
Now you finally can leave the and just to close, please join us for high tea. And before you do that, I would like to put on record my sincere thanks to all the team that have made this event possible, including design of the poster, all the way to, of course, taking recordings and then eventually correcting, particularly to Professor Vishal Singh and the team that he leads in order to make this happen every month. So thank you all very much. Thank you. Please join us for high tea.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so let's move on that side and we'll close it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Vishal.
Michelle.